This is Skybees 2, a 1.16 questing Skyblock mod pack that is the sequel to Skybees 1, which we played a few years ago. We start out here on a fairly small platform with 2 oak saplings, and as per usual, we do have the quest book to guide us through the entirety of this mod pack, which starts out right here with us collecting 32 oak logs. As per usual, you can bind your quest book to a hotkey to open it more easily without having to click on the button in the top left here. And I don't think it should be that difficult for us to get 32 logs right at the start of the series, because we do have the mod that lets us shift to make these grow faster. And I think we can also kind of just run back and forth as well. From my testing, it seems that in this pack, running back and forth does make it a little bit faster for the tree growth. Now, one thing I should point out is that my recommendation here when starting this pack is going to be to use the Ultimine mod to break the leaves, because in my first test playthrough, I just broke both of the trees by their logs, and I didn't get a single sapling. All the saplings I did get all fell right off the edge, whereas if you break a bunch of blocks using FTB Ultimine, all of the drops all drop in the place that you break it. So if I go and break it here, they all drop where you break the block, which makes it so much easier to get a sapling to allow you to keep going in the pack. For those who don't know, if you go to Options, Controls, and type in Ultimine, you can rebind the FTB Ultimine key. I've got mine set to a button on my mouse. All you have to do, hold it down, and then break whatever block it is you want to break, and it will break all of the connected blocks that are the same. And so real quick, we should be able to throw down more of these, do a quick run backwards and forwards, trying our best not to fall off the platform, although I guess at the same time we could probably start here by throwing down just a couple of planks to make it a little easier for us to chop down these trees without dying. And on top of that, I am fairly certain that we do have Tinker's Construct in this mod pack, and so instead of making a regular crafting table, right off the bat here, if we get 2 sticks and 2 planks, we can craft up a pattern, and if you craft the pattern with an oak log, you can get a crafting station, which is basically like an upgraded crafting table because it allows you to leave items in there, which is very nifty, and also kind of acts as a bit of a chest in the early game if we need that extra space, although to be fair, we could just make a regular chest as well, which, you know what, we might as well do. I do think there might be a quest for a chest. There is. So I'm going to hold on to this and not put it down just yet. But really, the first few quests here are just to get 32 logs and then 64 planks, which is mostly a case of just planting and chopping down these trees. Speaking of Tinker's Construct, though, we could make a regular axe right off the bat, but I feel like we might as well jump in a little bit at the deep end here and get ourselves a Tinker's Station, which is this guy, as well as a part builder, which is this guy. Both of these just require wood in different forms. They all require those same blank patterns that we made previously. Boom, that's a Tinker Station, and boom, that's a part builder. And with these 2 blocks, we should now be able to turn our patterns into a repairable hatchet. So if we do this and this, over inside the part builder, we can place the blank patterns in on the left with some oak planks. And in order to make an axe in the Tinker's Station here, if we click on the tool we want to make, in this case a hand axe, we need 1 small axe head, 1 tool handle, and 1 tool binding. So in here, we want to select small axe head, small tool handle, and tool binding. Over in here, boom, boom, and boom. So long as we're on the axe page, and so long as these are in the right slots, we get a wooden axe, which can then be repaired going forward. That's really the big benefit of these Tinker's tools in the early game, is that we can use them like this to chop down the tree slightly faster than we would with our hands, but then going forward, instead of having to remake the axe again and again and again inside the Tinker Station, we can just get ourselves some planks, pop the axe in, and then if you pop in the same material used to make the head, it will just repair the axe back with higher durability. And once we've got 32 logs, we can then, of course, go ahead and craft 32 planks. Fantastic. And then from there, there's a couple of options as to where we go here. But I think our best option is going to be to get the composter and work our way this way, because one of the first things that we really want to work towards is the linking tool. The linking tool is going to allow us to start using this collector crystal from Astral Sorcery. Make sure you don't break this at the start of your playthrough. It is necessary to progress, although I don't think you can break it yet. It just can't be able to break, so you don't have to worry about that too much, but real quick, if we do something like this, we should then be able to get ourselves a composter, which we'll throw down right about here. The composter, from my testing, does have a tendency to kind of spew bone meal out. So again, just to kind of make sure we get any and all bone meal that we make from the composter, I'm going to make this platform just a little bit bigger on all of the sides kind of surrounding the composter here. And then in terms of filling the composter, whilst you can use saplings, the easier method, and the method that I believe the quest book wants us to use, is to make yet more patterns. And again, over in the Tinker Station, our goal here is going to be to make this guy, the Karma, because the Karma can be used to harvest leaves like a shear would. Now, for this, we need another tool binding, we need another tool rod, and we need a sword. The Twitch chat has pointed out quite handily that if you do put these blocks next to each other, you can actually swap between them in the panels at the top. You don't have to come out and go back in to swap between these different blocks. And so over here, we can once again get a binding, we can get a handle, and we can get a small sword blade. Then back over here, we can put all of those pieces together to make ourselves a wooden Karma. And if we go ahead and get another tree here, what we should be able to do is break all of the leaves using the Karma to get a ton of leaves. And of course, those leaves are then usable in the composter to get bone meal. On top of that, I do believe it shows us in the quest book over here, we can also use the leaves to make string, and we can use that string to make wool, and of course we can use that wool to make a bed if we want to sleep through the night. So now it is kind of just a case of us getting a few more leaves here to get our first bit of bone meal, and in fact, I think looking at the quest book here, we're going to want to get 5 pieces of bone meal, because over here, the floral fertilizer, which we're going to need in order to get blue dye, this is made using 1 bone meal and then 4 dye, but as you'll have just seen, the white dye is usable, and of course we can make white dye with bone meal. And so I think the easiest way for us to get our first bit of floral fertilizer here is just going to be via 5 bone meal. Up here, we can make a campfire right now. The campfire is doable, I believe. I think the recipe has been tweaked to just require a torch, which of course we can steal from the ground, and we also do need some logs as well. That is completely fine. We do, of course, have an infinite amount of wood available to us. We do want to make sure that we don't run out of oak saplings using the Karma, because of course you don't get any saplings when you get all of the leaves, and of course the Karma here does have a surprisingly low durability, so it is a tool that we're going to have to repair quite frequently if we're going to keep gathering leaves like this. But back over here, the campfire is very doable, and this is going to be our early game smelting operation, because we can use the campfire in this pack to make glass panes and bricks, but to get any of these, we first have to start with the linking tool. And so real quick, let me drop a few more leaves in here to try and get some bone meal. There we go. And then basically now we're just going to do the same thing again to get 4 more bone meal. And once we've got 5 bone meal, we can keep 1 and turn the rest into white dye. And then this is a shapeless craft, so you can put these wherever you want. So long as you have all of the white items in the crafting grid, we will get some floral fertilizer. And then now the floral fertilizer here is going to be used to get mystical flowers on the platform. So there are a few things we could do here. I think we get the same amount of flowers no matter what, so long as there's enough space. I think normally you get 3 to 4. One thing we could do here is we could look at trying to get some of the dirt from the lower levels of this platform and kind of bring it up to make this bigger. Real quick though, let me just see about using this kind of here. Yeah, that got us 4 flowers, which is perfect. So the thing that we're trying to do here is we're trying to get specifically a blue flower, because what we can do once we have the mystical flowers is we can not ideally stand on our campfire, but we can craft these flowers into their associated color of mystical petal, and then from there, if we make a pestle and mortar from Botania, we should be able to turn all of those petals into the associated dye color of that petal. So for example, if we get a bowl and we make a pestle and mortar, we can then craft, for example, the red petals here with the pestle and mortar to get red dye. Not only is that useful for making more floral fertilizer, because now we have enough dye here to make 2 more floral fertilizer, it's also how we're going to get blue dye, and that blue dye is required here for the linking tool. So real quick, let's see if we can't get 1 more piece of bone meal. And if we are somewhat lucky, we should be able to turn this floral fertilizer into, I was hoping, blue dye. Alas, we didn't get any. And so real quick, let me do a few more floral fertilizer placements and see if we can't get some blue dye. One thing you can do here to get more petals is you can get these tall mystical flowers. The way that works is if you have a flower down, let's say this mystical brown flower is down, much like with the trees, if you shift near it or if you run near it, it will grow into a tall flower. The only trouble then is if you try and break the tall flower with your hands, it will just be destroyed. You won't get anything. But if you break it with a shear, or in our case, this wooden comma, we do actually get to pick up the flower. And then in this case, instead of getting the regular 2 mystical petals, you get 4, which is pretty nifty. And I believe that you can then plant those back down and again do some more shifting to get another tall version. And then from here, we can kind of infinitely duplicate brown dye or brown petals, and we can do the same for all of the other colors. Again, though, ideally, we need to get some blue. And there we go, about 2 more floral fertilizers later. We got some mystical blue flowers. Again, we can grow that to make it a little bit taller, and we can harvest that with the comma to get even more blue petals, and from there, some blue dye. Nice. And so the blue dye now is usable to make this linking tool. This does require 2 regular sticks and a custom recipe here that involves 2 wooden tool handles as well. Thankfully over here we do have what it takes to make 2 more wooden tool handles, and so that should be everything for us to get the Astral Sorcery linking tool. Nice. The idea here is that this is going to allow us to link the power of this collector crystal to a specific block on the ground. And one of the nifty things we can do, for example, we can place down an oak log. We can then right-click on the collector crystal, like this. And if we right-click on the oak log, it's then going to start to transform the block here into sand. Nice. And that is a recipe specific to wood, by the way. You'll see in the book here, place an oak log in range of the collector crystal, right-click on the crystal, and then right-click on the log, and it will transform. On top of that, we can also get clay by transforming bone blocks. So if we can get 9 bone meal, which again we can do with our oak leaves, we can place down that bone block and we can transform it into clay. That clay then can of course be smelted on the campfire to make bricks. And as I mentioned earlier, we can take the sand. I feel like we might as well take 4 sand here if we can get it, and we can place all 4 of that sand onto the campfire, and that's going to smelt that sand, I believe, into glass panes specifically. Yeah, and it does take 30 seconds, which is a little bit of time. And again, I should probably have put this down a little bit further kind of in the platform, because the campfire also has a bit of a tendency to spew its wares out when it's finished. We, I think, do have the building ones in the pack, but unfortunately right now we don't have access to any cobblestone, so we don't really have the ability to build this platform out any faster than I currently am building it out. But real quick, what we're going to do, I guess, then, is we are going to get a ton more leaves real quick via our trees here and see if we can't get 9 bone meal to allow us to make, oops, see, that one almost went all the way off the edge, but 9 bone meal to see if we can't get a block of clay to allow us to get some brick. So the Twitch chat is suggesting something that I think could work here, that it might be quicker and easier if we try and use wheat and seeds to get the bone meal faster. I have managed to get 5 bone meal. The trouble with using the leaves, though, is that we have to ultimine with the karma, and every time you use the ultimine, it does take away quite a bit of your hunger, and of course, because we're ultimining the leaves, we don't get any apples from the trees, and so our hunger is going down quite quickly. So the suggestion here is that we bone meal the grass to get some grass. We can then ultimine that to try and get some seeds. We're not getting particularly lucky with the seed situation here, unfortunately. But if we can get some seeds, we can hopefully then plant those and shift them to try and grow it into wheats quickly. So this does kind of work with the bell pepper here. You can shift to grow the bell pepper seed that we got, and then you can compost those bell peppers. We can also eat it as well, which is actually, if nothing else, a decent source of food for us. Composting-wise, it's not particularly great. I think the benefit of using wheat seeds is that we can potentially craft them into bread, which I think is more likely to give us like a layer inside of the composter, whereas it can take a few leaves to get a single layer in the composter doing the same method. So I will try again to get some wheat seeds here, and then if we get them, we'll see about putting bread in this composter. There we go. We got some wheat seeds finally. Okay, so let's give these a try with the wheat seeds. These do grow a little bit slowly. Definitely slower than the bell peppers, which is unfortunate. It might be faster if we sprint. I've noticed, yeah, the sprinting does seem to be faster in this pack. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know what the difference is between those two, but it seems like this does grow a fair bit faster. And again, not only is this a decent source of food, we are getting more actual seeds here as well, which means I guess we could do, something like this and grow a ton of it all at once, and then you can use ultimine to harvest them all at the same time. And so, yeah, we could definitely use this to get a ton of wheat very quickly. And then not only can we use the seeds to get the composting level to go up, we can also use the wheat as well, which looks like it does go up substantially faster than using the leaves as well. And so, real quick, down on the lower levels here, we can grab this. I'm fairly certain that there is a piece of bedrock right here. There is. And so, what we can try and do, using our ultimine, I'm going to eat real quick. We can try and get the bottom level of dirt here. So the ultimine key should work because the grass here is a different block to the dirt. So if I stand real close, I'm going to break the 10 dirt blocks and try and grab them all like that. From there, we can potentially break that one. We did lose that one, unfortunately. If I just try this again, it might work again. I was going to try and put down a block next to the bedrock here, because if we did that, then we could guarantee that the blocks would fall on there. But I think if we try the same again, we might get just as lucky. I'm going to push forward. No, we lost them all. Okay. The plan was going to be to break this, put a piece of dirt here, and then ultimine, and then put this back down and break here. That would have been sensible. And I'm going to lose this dirt as well now, like a fool. But that would have, I think, guaranteed that the stuff landed on this block. Either way, via that little exertion, we did manage to get some more dirt here, and so we should be able to place this dirt down and use it to grow even more wheat. I think what I'll do is I'll move all of these, and just to make sure that we don't lose this dirt in the future, I'm probably going to expand the platform out a little bit further and then put the dirt down kind of on top of the platform like this for now, so that if we ever need to pick it back up, we can just go ahead and pick it up. We don't have to worry about it falling into the abyss. And yeah, as you can see here, this is way faster than what we were doing previously with the trees, and it also uses substantially less hunger as well because we're ultimining fewer blocks, which is great. I have gone ahead and placed down the chest we made earlier just to free up some space. I've gotten rid of all of the Botania stuff, and you'll see we just have a staggering number of seeds at this point, like way more than we can use. And we are going to need some of these for crafting later on, but for now, we can basically just turn all of these into bone meal. Again, really want to make sure that we don't lose much of our stuff off the edge of the platform, but we'll use this to make, ideally, I think 18 bone meal, because looking a little bit further on here, we get 1 clay block from 1 bone block, but that only gets us 4 clay. And looking up here, the first thing that we really, I think, want to look at making is this tempered glass jar. To make this tempered glass jar here from the FTB Jars mod, this is a really nifty item, we need to get a cast iron tube. And to make the cast iron tube, we need a cast iron gear and 2 cast iron ingots. This is made with 4 cast iron ingots, so we need a total of 6 cast iron ingots, and each cast iron ingot is 1 brick smelted, and each brick is, of course, 1 clay smelted. So we need 6 clay in total, which means ideally we're going to want to get at least 2 blocks of clay, which means we need 18 bone meal. And so I think that should be very doable with all of the wheat and seeds that we have. It's just a case of rapidly clicking all of this stuff into the composter. All right, and a bunch of composting later, we now have 27 bone meal, which is actually enough to make 3 bone blocks here. And as we saw a second ago, we should be able to place these down. I believe we're going to get 4 clay when we break this, but then we can craft that back into a clay block to complete the quest, and then we can craft it again back into clay balls to complete this quest here for those clay balls. And then, of course, we can do the same thing a second and a third time. Nice. Now, I do think it's probably going to be in our best interest to make another campfire here, just because the recipes that are required to use the campfire are pretty slow. So if we do this and this, the first recipe of turning the clay balls, 1, 2, 3, 4, into bricks, it takes a little bit of time. If I press U here on the clay balls, we can see that it takes 20 seconds to transform 1 clay ball into a brick, which is slower than a regular furnace. And then from there, to get the bricks into cast iron ingots, we need another 30 seconds. So it's going to take a little bit of time for these to transform, hence the double up on the campfires here. And then we're just going to take all of these and put them all straight back down onto the campfire. And then whilst that's cooking, I think we want to look at getting even more glass pans using our oak logs here. And of course, those also need cooking on the campfires, because if we're going to make the glass jar, this requires 7 tempered glass, and each tempered glass is made on a campfire by smelting 1 glass pan. So right now, we have got 4 glass pans. We've got 1 more sand. Let's do 2 more sand and 3 more sand. That's going to take us to 7. I'm going to go for 8 just because we can cook 4 at a time. Let's grab all of these, and then let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to get us the remaining glass panes. Over here, we can do 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to get us the tempered glass. Again, whilst we wait for that, over here, we can complete the recipe for the cast iron gear and the recipe for the cast iron tubes. And then any second now, we should get even more glass panes. We do have to smelt 3 of them again, of course, and we should get our tempered glass panes, but that should be everything for this tempered glass jar. And the reason that we're making this is that this is actually going to allow us to craft a lot of stuff in the early game. Specifically, if we take a look at the recipe here, if I type in jar and we press U on the tempered jar, this one right here, we can see all of the different recipes that are makeable using the glass jar. And for us in the early game, something like dirt, water, and ceramic organic water buckets, these are all going to be quite useful. Water, of course, useful for cobblestone. It's also usable for lava here, which is also necessary to make that same cobblestone. And the way this works is you take your tempered glass jar, which looks something like this, and you place it down in such a way that it's going to connect to an inventory. So let's take this. We could use our pre-existing chest, but I'm going to set up like a dedicated area for this. So we're going to have a chest down, and I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to expand the base out just a little bit. This doesn't spew its items out, so we don't really need too much extra space, but just to make it a little easier for us to move around, all we're going to do is we're going to place down our tempered glass jar, and then we're going to use these pipes here to connect the jars to other inventories like this. This pipe, I believe, can be as long as you like, but so long as there's an inventory attached, we can now use the jar here to craft, for example, dirt. The dirt recipe is 8 of any kind of organic compound gets us 1 dirt. There are seeds down here. I think any seed will work, and so I'm pretty sure what we should be able to do is take our wheat seeds, put them in here, and then in here, what we should be able to do is select this recipe right here to turn 12 seeds into dirt, click play, and it's going to go ahead and transform 12 wheat seeds from here into 1 dirt. You'll notice we had 20 before, now we only have 8. It's taken the other 12, and somewhat slowly but surely, it is crafting those into dirt. Now, it's only going to do it once. Even if we have more seeds in there, it's still only going to do 1 craft. We can change that, though, if we want it to continually make dirt, which is what we're going to want to do, because you'll see the next quest here wants us to get 2 compressed dirt, and for that, we're going to need 19 dirt in total. If we want to do it automatically, that is where we need the jar auto-processing block. This guy also isn't too difficult to make, but it does require even more of these cast iron ingots. Thankfully, though, we did get even more clay, and so we should be able to make more of these. We need 6 more cast iron ingots on top of another cast iron gear, which is another 4, of course. So that's 10 in total. We already have the pipes, and so we need 10 cast iron ingots, which is 8 more than what we have. And then we also need a brick hopper, which is 5 brick and a regular chest. This works kind of just like a slow regular hopper, but of course doesn't require any iron. And so I think, real quick, what we should definitely do here is go ahead and do a little bit more composting to get a little bit more bone meal, to make more bone blocks, and to get more clay. All right, so 3 blocks of clay later, we now have the 10 cast iron ingots required to make the cast iron gear. We also have the bricks required here to make our first brick hopper, like so. That is also a quest, fantastic. And that should be everything that we need for the auto-processing jar. And I believe with the auto-processing jar, we want to place this, I think, on top of the pre-existing jar. Now, at the moment, we actually don't have a pickaxe of any kind. Thankfully, again, with Tinker's Construct, that is going to be fairly easy for us to fix. Much like with the X earlier, for the pickaxe, we need a pickaxe head, we need a tool binding, and we need a tool handle. Over in here, pickaxe, head, binding, and rod. Fantastic. That should allow us to break this pipe right here. And then from there, if we place the auto-processing jar on top like that, we should now be able to open up the processing jar, click play on this, and so long as there are seeds in here, it should continue to take 12 seeds, turn it into dirt, and then as soon as it's done, it's going to take another 12 seeds and make more dirt, and it's just going to keep going again and again and again until it runs out of seeds. Cool. And we need 18 dirt in total in order to get the 2 compressed dirt. To that extent, it might not be a terrible idea just to pick up the dirt that we already have here. This is 13. That's 14. You'll see this has gone ahead and kind of continued right away here, getting us even more dirt. That's going to make it a lot easier for us to get up to 18, and then we can kind of just leave this going to get even more going forward. As far as water goes here, we can get water into a ceramic bucket using a tinker smeltery. We can also make water using spruce leaves and a tempered jar. The way this works is we need a regular glass jar in order to store the water. So much like we've connected a chest via the tube like this, we can do the same thing. For example, if we put down a jar here, we can then provide water to the jar, or we can have the jar produce water and place it into a different jar, a regular Minecraft jar. And so for that, we're going to need yet more sand. And for that, we're going to need yet more clay. And so really, I think, unfortunately, I have just picked these up, but we might just have to put them right back down again. And this time around, just use them to get even more clay. Because it seems like really everything in the pack here at the start requires either clay or sand. And so real quick, let's do even more sand into even more glass pans. I believe we just need the 7 along with a regular button in order to make a standard glass jar. That should be very doable. Put 4 on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll get another 4 for the other campfire. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once all those glass pans are smelted, we can do something like this to get the button. And then we can do this and this to get the regular glass jar. And then if we drop that down right about here, what we should now be able to do is put some leaves into this chest. And over here, if we press stop on that, we should be able to swap the recipe here to the water recipe. And in fact, if I type water in here, it might make it a little easier for us to find it. Hold on, have I seen the wrong thing here? If we want to make water, we need heat. We need low temperature heat beneath the jar. That makes sense. And so for that, we need some kind of torch beneath the jar. That's actually completely fine for us. I think in order for this to work, what we need to do is we need to take this and kind of move it up a little bit because we want to put a torch underneath this tempered glass jar. And so thankfully, we do have 1 torch remaining over on this side of the platform. If we place this down, let's say right about here, I believe we can then do tempered jar, which you'll see is now hot, auto processing jar, ideally again on top of our pre-existing tempered jar. And then if we connect that up in the exact same way we did previously, with a cast iron pipe like so, we should now in here be able to make water. We can. And if we click this and click play, it should go ahead, take 4 minutes and 15 seconds. That's going to take a while, but it's going to take our 10 leaves and turn them into 1 bucket of water, which is going to get placed down right about here. I have made a grave mistake in that I've used all of my seeds. I put some in here and they turned into dirt, and I used the last of them in the composter, so now I'm fully out of seeds, which is not ideal. And so whilst I wait for this to produce water for me, I'm going to have to try and get more seeds using more bone meal on the grass platform here. We can then replant them and get more of them. And we're going to work on getting some more clay blocks because we do need clay in order to make the ceramic bucket here, which of course is going to be necessary if we want to be able to access this water. All right, so this is 10 seconds away from being done. I did manage to get another wheat seed using more leaves to get more bone meal. And of course, now we can get a ton more seeds here and therefore a ton more dirt. And we can also use some of our excess leaves to make even more water because we now have 1 bucket of water in here, but we also kind of want to get 2 buckets of water, right? Because if we can get 2 buckets of water, we can place those down for an infinite water source. And so real quick, let's do one of these. Let's plant down 1 more sapling. This time around, I have put a few of the saplings and the seeds in this chest just to make sure that if I do accidentally use all of the ones that I have in my inventory, that we do still have more that are available for us to use. And real quick, we can then go and place another 10 of these over in here. And that should allow us to begin work. Oh, never mind. I guess we already had enough in there because it's already working on yet another bucket. Perfect. Okay, so while that works on another bucket, I'm going to get enough clay to make a clay bucket, which thankfully is only 3 clay. So we just need 1 more clay block. That 1 clay block is going to allow us to make a clay bucket. And then I presume that using the campfire, we can smelt that unfired clay bucket into a ceramic bucket. And then we can use that to move our water out of this jar and ideally make an infinite water source. Boom. 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 And boom. We have our ceramic bucket. We can take our bucket of water. This one here is about 2 minutes away from being done. That is completely fine. Let's get a few more planks here, and then let's just go ahead and throw down a little unlimited water source. I'll also do something like this, just to kind of round off the platform a little bit. Still don't have access to any of the building ones, unfortunately. Again, they do require some kind of cobblestone, but again, if we can get enough dirt going we should be able to get that cobblestone sooner rather than later. Over here, I'm just going to do something very simple, something like that. We can put one water source block here, and as soon as the second water source block is ready, we can place it down right about here, and that's going to give us unlimited water for the future. So I think at this point, we really kind of just need to get the 2x compressed dirt block. We do have quite a bit of dirt here, but of course, ideally, we do want to get even more. In fact, how much do we have? If I get rid of these and I get rid of these, we've got 20, which is kind of fine. Let's do this. We'll take those. This is very almost done. We can then use the compressed dirt here in the jar. We do need high temperature for this to work. Oh, I see. There's a recipe up here. So we need to start by getting the ceramic organic water bucket. We need to use that to make soul sand. Then we can get the soul campfire. I see. So the ceramic organic water bucket here, this is going to require some kind of seed and some kind of water. That actually seems fine. And so I think, surprisingly, wait, I didn't get any water. I don't know if that's because there wasn't enough leaves in it. I wonder if there was a red X here that I just missed last time, because I think it tried to do it, but there weren't enough leaves. I put the leaves in after the craft had started. That's awkward, because it now means we've got to wait another 4 minutes. I think, though, that basically, once that 4 minutes is up and we get another bucket of water, we should be able to move that over to here, and then we'll take an unlimited water source out of the middle, put it back into this jar, and then using that, we can then hopefully combine our water with seeds to get organic water, and then up here, we can then combine organic water with regular sand to make soul sand, and then that soul sand is usable to make the soul campfire. I see. That makes a tremendous amount of sense. Okay, cool. And then from there, we can obviously use our lava and water to make a cobblestone generator, and then that cobblestone generator can be used to make other stuff. It looks like as soon as we have 6 cobblestone, we can actually make an automatic cobblestone generator, which would be fantastic. It also gives us access, finally, to a regular furnace, which would be ideal. I also think we might actually have a better way of making clay. Yeah, once we get unlimited water, we can just turn sand into clay, which is substantially easier than what we currently have going on, because of course right now we have to use the bone meal to get clay, whereas going forward we can just turn wood into sand, and then we can turn that sand into clay, and that's going to make getting hoppers and cast iron so much easier. And on top of that, I do wonder, looks like you can make sand with lava and liquid starlight, but I think that's a little bit outside of our price range right now. I was also wondering if there was some kind of hammering we could do to maybe turn cobblestone into gravel and then maybe into sand. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's super possible, although actually, never mind, you totally can. There's a crusher right here, and it looks like we're going to be able to use that to turn cobble into gravel, gravel into sand, and then of course we can turn sand into clay, and that's going to make all of this substantially easier, because we do need clay for this right-hand side of the quest book, which is where we actually get started with the namesake of the mod pack, that of course being bees, because we take the empty DNA here, which is 5 clay, and I believe we can use that to make this bee DNA using some yellow dye and some high temperature in the tempered glass jar. And I believe the way we start with bees is we use the DNA spawner, which I believe will take the DNAs that we have and use it to spawn specific bees. For example, if we use a bee DNA on the DNA spawner, which again, fairly straightforward to make, I think it's just going to spawn a regular bee. If we were to make like a blaze DNA and right-click it on the DNA spawner, it would make a blaze bee. So pretty nifty stuff over there. There's also a quest to make some ceramic shears as well, although given that we have the karma, I don't really know how necessary those are. We also have, of course, the ability to make beehives, and the soul snare is from Blood Magic. The beehive itself is actually pretty easy to make. We just need 3 string, like so, with 6 planks, like so. That gets us a standard beehive, although we are going to almost certainly want to upgrade this to a tier 1 beehive from Resourceful Bees, because for those of you who are unfamiliar, Resourceful Bees is kind of the core way in which we're going to generate resources in this pack. It's pretty nifty stuff, but we can use bees to generate different kinds of honeycomb, and we can use those honeycombs to generate different resources. And so the vast majority of the resource generating in this pack is going to be done via a ton of different resource bees. For example, there's like an iron bee. This cute guy right here is going to be used to make iron honeycombs, and then we can process those iron honeycombs into iron ingots, and we can do the same thing for redstone, gold, lapis, coal, diamonds, etc. going forward. But we are getting a little ahead of ourselves for now. We just need to wait 18 seconds for our second bucket of water. Once that's done, boom, And boom, let's take that center block so we can refill this. And in fact, we can probably refill this a few times over. And then we needed just seeds in here. We're going to cancel this craft, and we're going to switch to organic water, which is... Oh, do we need like a different kind of seed? Does it have to be anything apart from standard wheat seeds? Thankfully, we do have some other seeds. We've got eggplant seeds here, and we also have a couple of bell pepper seeds over here. If I throw those in over here, can I make organic water? Still, no. 1,000 buckets of water. Oh, maybe it's because we need to have no heat. Do I have to get rid of the torch to make it work? I do. Okay, cool. That's actually fine. I think we can use the wheat seeds for this. I was going to say that makes more sense. And start. This, again, is going to take a little bit of time. 34 seconds actually is not too bad. We do, though, need to have space for it. Is there only one bucket in there? There is. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to put it back away for now. We could do with getting another glass jar real quick so that we can have both organic water and regular water in the system at the same time. And so for that, we just need to get yet more glass pans and get those cooking over on the campfire. Do I have any glass pans spare? I don't. I've got one in my inventory, which, unfortunately, is not particularly useful. And 8 glass pans later, we should be able to get ourselves another button, craft that up with the 7 glass pans, and we'll throw that down, let's say, right about here. Cool. So that is going to allow us to store both water and organic water, so we can put the water in over here. But now we want to take that organic water, of course, and use it to make the soul sand. Real quick, let me take that out just for the quest completion. Also, let me pick this up because that did not mean to go there. And the soul sand, as we saw earlier, is just sand and organic water. And so real quick, if we do one more of these, we can take our sand, we can place it in the chest, and then we should be able to get our first, cancel that of course, get our first soul sand. Start. And there we go. Soul sand acquired. And just like we saw earlier, we should then be able to craft that into a soul campfire, which we can place directly underneath the jar. That's going to make it very hot. And so now we can put our 2 compressed dirt back in here and cancel this. We should then be able to get lava. And so long as we have the space for it, which we do, it's going to go into that jar. We can click start. It's going to take 2 minutes and 7 seconds. So again, a little bit of time, but that should just work. And I think we can almost certainly connect multiple jars to the same kind of set of inventories. And so it's probably not a terrible idea to look at getting a second tempered jar here, especially given that it's really just 7 sand smelted twice. And once we have a second jar, we could use that second jar to speed up the production of dirt as well, because of course getting more wheat seeds is not too difficult, but turning those wheat seeds into dirt does take a little bit of time inside of just the one jar, and especially when our one jar is doing other stuff, it could be very helpful to have a second one. So real quick, whilst I wait for this lava to cook, I'm going to get even more wood and even more sand and see about getting another tempered jar down. And 14 glass later, we can go ahead and make 2 more of these jars. The Twitch chat did make a good point here in that it's probably worth having 3 of these in total. That way, we can put all of these down. And we probably want to do this in a slightly different way, actually. I was going to put them down just next to each other, but we do need to connect them all to the same pipes. And so it's probably better to do it like this, and then maybe like expand the platform a bit this way, because then we can just do something like this. Oh, of course, you have to connect these to the top, so I guess like this, and like this. Although if that's the case, then I guess we can put them down the other way. I was going to put them down on this side, but you know what? Never mind. Ignore me. I'm doing this in the worst way possible. Let's do it the way we were going to do it, which is here, like this. I think that works. And then over here, we can move this guy over to the end. The reason for 3 of them, of course, is so that we can have one with the soul campfire, and we don't have to move it. We can have a second one with the torch, and we don't have to move it. And we can have the third one just on its own. Cool. And so in here, I'm assuming that that's still going to have access to all of the seeds in here. So if I go ahead and type in dirt, presumably I can hit play on that, and that's going to start doing its thing. Of course, we would have to move the jar auto processor over, which I think is fine. I think we do probably want to have the jar auto processor on top of the one without any heat on it. I think that's probably sensible. So let's do this, and let's do this, making sure to put that down in the right space, and then we'll go ahead and hit play in there, and that should continually turn all of our excess wheat seeds, because again, don't forget we do have some still, thankfully, over in here. That should turn all of those into dirt, And it turns out, by the way, you can use this campfire for smelting as well. It's not any faster than a regular campfire, but it does work if you want to kind of triple up on the smelting speed. Of course, right here, we do now have the lava, which is fantastic. The only downside to this is that when you pick it up in the ceramic bucket, this ceramic bucket is now going to break when we place it down. So we are going to have to make another ceramic bucket. Thankfully, as we saw, we can now turn sand and water into clay. That requires no heat, and unfortunately this guy's working on making dirt. So you know what, real quick, let's do one of these, and in here, we should be able to do this. So long as we have a bit of sand in there, which we can of course get like this, we can then take our sand, drop it in the chest, and there's of course water already connected, so if we do that, it's gonna go ahead and make a clay for us. Does maybe take a little bit longer, although it's definitely way faster than getting 9 bone meal and transferring that. Yeah, that's definitely way quicker. The question we kind of have to ask ourselves now is what we're going to do about getting cobblestone, because the quest wants us to get 64. Oh no, we can make cobblestone with the jars. That is pretty nifty. Although, if this uses, it looks like it's going to use a bucket of lava, which is unfortunate. If it uses a bucket of lava, that's not really a good trade, unfortunately, because it's 1 bucket of lava per cobblestone, which is of course not good. Whereas if it was just able to make it passively, that would be much better. I think instead we're going to have to try and set up some kind of system, potentially with like crafting tables, because or even dirt potentially. It's just something that doesn't burn, so that we can set up a little kind of regular cobblestone generator and try and get 64 cobble. Once we have that first stack of cobble, we can then look at making a cobblestone generator so that we don't have to do it manually going forward. I do think dirt is going to be the most sensible building block for us, because unlike wood, it's not flammable. And so what I think we will do is take our second bucket here, which is ready, thankfully. We'll get some water. We're going to use that water alongside this lava to make our cobblestone generator. But before then, what we're going to do is I'm kind of going to use both of these jars, I think, to make dirt. I will take the dirt here initially, and we'll use it to make more seeds, so we can keep filling this up with seeds, and we'll keep using it to make more dirt. And once we have enough dirt to make a cobblestone generator, we'll look at setting that up to get large amounts of cobblestone. Okay, so I've got 14 dirt, make that 16 dirt, and I think what we'll do here is we'll break this and this. That's going to allow the water to kind of flow down, and we can also probably kind of do this and this. Not necessary, but I think it looks nicer. And then, essentially, all we have to do is put lava here. And so I think what we might do is we're going to kind of doom this piece of dirt. But I think if we do this, I think that should be fine. It might be somewhat sensible for us also to do this. Although I think the cobblestone would put out any fires that would normally spawn there anyway, just for a little bit of extra safety. And because the dirt is super easy for us to make, we'll do this and we'll do this. We'll then go and grab our lava. And if we just throw that down right about here, that should produce cobblestone. It does indeed. And then from there, we should be able to start mining that cobblestone. And again, we're kind of, oh, we get both stone and cobblestone. That's interesting. Of course, for us, it all ends up being cobblestone in the end anyway. But that is good to know, actually, I guess. But once we have 6 cobblestone, we should then be able to make that tier 1 cobble gen. The quest does want us to make, does want us to get 64 first, but I think we can do these a little out of order, and I think it should be fine. The only thing that we have to bear in mind here is that we do need to get another bucket of lava to make this work. And so for us, that means, thankfully, quite easily, just getting a little bit more in the way of wood, specifically 1 more log that we can then transmute into 1 more sand. And then over here, we can turn that sand, along with a single bucket of water, like this, into yet more clay, like so. And then that's going to be enough to get us another ceramic bucket, because if we look at the cobble gen tier 1, this one right here, we need 1 lava bucket, 1 ceramic bucket. We do need 1 glass, and we need 6 cobblestone. The 1 glass is interesting because it means that I think we actually have to start by making a furnace, and this is why we need 64 cobblestone. Okay, so unfortunately, we can't cheese it, when we are going to have to stand here and get 70 cobblestone actually, because we need to get 64 cobblestone to make the regular Minecraft furnace, because it needs 8 compressed cobblestone, each compressed cobblestone requiring 9 cobblestone. So we're going to need a bunch of cobble to make this work. Once we have that furnace, then we can get the actual glass required to make the cobble gen. The Twitch chat does make a good point here, in that now that we have some cobblestone, we can make a stone pickaxe head, and we can use that over here. Basically, if we put our old pickaxe in and we put the stone pickaxe head in here, we can upgrade our pre-existing pickaxe to a stone pickaxe, and you'll see over on the right-hand side that the mining speed goes from 2 with the wooden head to 4 with the stone head. And so this should be a little bit faster than our previous pickaxe and should make getting the 64 cobblestone just that little bit easier. All right, so we do now have 64 cobblestone, thankfully. We should be able to craft that down. Annoyingly, it's not actually enough. I don't know why the quest wants you to make less than you actually need. We do need even more cobblestone. We need 8 more if we're going to make this work. Thankfully, getting 8 cobblestone is not going to take us long at all over here. And once we have it, we should then be able to make our sand into glass. And then from there, we can finally get even more cobblestone to make the cobble gen. So let's do one of these. Let's do one of these. Let's plop this guy down for now right about here. And then in here, we need some sand, of course. Let's do this and this. We'll put you in with any kind of fuel. And that's going to finally get us some glass over here. We do have that clay. We can craft that down. We can craft that into yet another ceramic bucket. And we can place that ceramic bucket on here to smelt up. The glass is done. Fantastic. Real quick, let's get 6 more cobblestone. And that should be everything that we need in order to make the tier 1 cobble gen, which is not going to be particularly fast, but is automatic, which is the most important aspect because it means that we don't have to manually stand around gathering all of the cobblestone. It's just going to come in passively for us, which is fantastic. This last bucket here is just to get the lava, so we're going to pick this back up. And then over here, we should now have everything we need to make the tier 1 cobble gen. And if I am not mistaken, I think this will eject into an inventory directly above it. Let me try this and this. It totally does. Look at that. And it just generates cobblestone passively. In fact, I think it's faster than I am. It definitely is faster than I am. It produces like 1 cobblestone per second there, which is pretty nifty. And of course, going forward, once we get iron and gold and diamond, we can upgrade that to become even faster and produce even more cobblestone. So I think that is going to about do it for this episode of Skybees 2 chat. Next time, we'll come back and using the current systems that we have, we do need to move those campfires so I don't keep taking damage every time I walk past it, but using our current systems, we can make, for example, even more clay here, and of course, we'll start using that clay to make the empty BNA, and I think next episode is when we'll really start kicking things off with our first bees. We'll get our first bees here, we'll look at getting some of the actual resource bees that are going to be useful, we'll look at getting the upgraded beehives, and we'll look at using those to start generating resources. There is a section here for Tinker's Construct, which we've completed most of this actually, we just need to make the part chest and then kind of pick that all up, and of course there are things like the smeltery that we can work on in there, and of course we do have things like storage drawers and simple storage network, which are going to make life a lot easier. We should probably replace this drawer here with a storage drawer, this chest here with a storage drawer sooner rather than later. But again, we'll do all that next time, and then we'll work through. And one of the things I really like about this pack is the way that it weaves the different mods together. So you'll see here, we have thermal expansion, but to get into thermal expansion, you kind of have to go through Astral Sorcery to get the Pretty Machine Trim. There's some pneumatic craft here, and that links back to the Resourceful Bees. And so one of the things I really like is just how well thought out the pack is in terms of how the progression flows from one mod into the next. They're not all kind of separate entities, they're all blended together in a way that I think works very well, and we'll see more of that as we progress through the pack, but that is a problem for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Skybees 2 there.